The arrival. The vast emptiness of space had always beckoned humanity, a siren call that whispered of adventure and discovery. For centuries we had gazed at the stars, wondering if we were alone in the universe. On that fateful day in 2157, we finally got our answer. The Galactic Council's envoy arrived in a ship that defied human understanding. It glided into Earth's orbit with impossible grace, its hull shimmering with colors our eyes couldn't fully process. As the ship descended through the atmosphere, the world held its collective breath. Dr. Elena Reyes, lead xenobiologist at the United Earth Space Agency, stood at the forefront of the welcoming committee. Her heart raced as the ship's doors opened, revealing beings that looked like they had stepped out of a fever dream. The aliens, calling themselves the Tsar Kuli, were a symphony of iridescent tentacles and crystalline structures that seemed to float in midair. "Welcome to Earth," Elena said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We come in peace and friendship." The lead Tsar Kuli, a being that towered over the humans, extended a shimmering appendage. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Council," it said, its voice a melodious hum that seemed to bypass their ears and resonate directly in their minds. "We have long awaited this moment." In the days that followed, Earth became a whirlwind of activity. The Tsar Kuli shared glimpses of their advanced technology, curing diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia, and offering solutions to the climate crisis that had pushed Earth to the brink. In return, humans shared their art, music, and literature, which seemed to fascinate the aliens to no end. Elena found herself working closely with Sci-Fi, the Tsar Kuli's chief scientist. As they exchanged knowledge, she couldn't help but notice a certain unease in her alien counterpart. "Sci-Fi," she said one day, as they were reviewing genetic data, "I can't shake the feeling that there's something you're not telling us." The alien's crystalline structures dimmed slightly, a sign Elena had come to associate with distress. "You are perceptive, Elena. There is indeed a matter of great importance we have yet to discuss." Zelfar's next words sent a chill down Elena's spine. "The galaxy is not the peaceful utopia we may have led you to believe. There is a threat, one that has consumed countless civilizations. We call them the Void Harbingers." The alien proceeded to show Elena holographic images that made her blood run cold. Entire solar systems reduced to ash, planets cracked open like eggs, and civilizations snuffed out in the blink of an eye. "The Harbingers are relentless," Zalfar continued. "They consume all in their path, growing stronger with each world they destroy. We have fought them for millennia, but we are losing ground." Elena's mind raced. Why tell us this now? Why not when you first arrived? Zalfar's body pulsed with a soft, sad light. "We needed to understand you first, to see if you were worthy of the burden this knowledge brings." "And?" Elena asked, her voice barely a whisper. "We believe you are," Zalfar said. "In fact, we believe you may be the key to our survival." Elena's brow furrowed. "I don't understand. We're centuries behind you technologically. How could we possibly help?" Zalfar's tentacles waved in a pattern that Elena had come to recognize as excitement. "It's not your technology we need, Elena. It's your spirit, your adaptability, your capacity for violence." The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Elena felt a mix of pride and unease wash over her. "What do you mean?" "In all our travels, we have never encountered a species quite like humanity," Zalfar explained. "You are capable of great kindness, yet also possess a savagery that both terrifies and fascinates us. We believe this duality may be the key to defeating the Void Harbingers." Elena sat in stunned silence, trying to process the weight of Zalfar's words. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy seemed to rest on humanity's shoulders. "What do you need us to do?" she finally asked, her voice filled with determination. Zalfar's body glowed with the intensity Elena had never seen before. "We need you to fight, Elena. We need you to unleash the full might of humanity upon the Void Harbingers. But be warned, The path ahead is fraught with danger, not just from our enemies, but from the darkness that lurks within your own species. As Elena looked out the window at the bustling city below, she realized that everything had changed. Humanity had dreamed of the stars for so long, but they had never imagined that the galaxy would be a battlefield, and they certainly never thought that their own capacity for violence would be their greatest asset. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and with it, the true test of humanity's place in the cosmos. As Elena steeled herself for the challenges ahead, she couldn't help but wonder, in the fight to save the galaxy, would humanity lose its soul? The stars twinkled in the night sky, no longer a source of wonder, but a reminder of the looming threat. Humanity stood at the precipice of its greatest adventure and its greatest horror. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Alliance. The news of the Void Harbingers spread through Earth like wildfire. Panic gripped some, while others felt a surge of determination. Humanity had faced extinction before, from its own making, but never on a galactic scale. The United Earth government convened an emergency session, and for the first time in history, the planet stood truly united. General Akira Tanaka, a veteran of the Third World War, and now the highest-ranking military officer on Earth, stood before the assembled leaders of humanity. His weathered face bore the scars of countless battles, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made even the most hardened politicians shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice a low growl that commanded attention, "we stand at the precipice of the greatest war humanity has ever known. The Zarkeli have shared their military technology with us, but it will not be enough. We must bring something to this fight that the galaxy has never seen before." Dr. Elena Reyes, now serving as the chief liaison between humanity and the Zarkeli, stepped forward. "General Tanaka is right. The Zarkeli believe that our unique approach to warfare may be the key to defeating the Void Harbingers." A murmur rippled through the assembly. President Chen of the United Earth government leaned forward. "What exactly do you mean by unique approach, Dr. Reyes?" Elena took a deep breath. "Throughout our history, humanity has demonstrated an unparalleled capacity for adaptation in warfare. From the invention of gunpowder to nuclear fission, we have consistently pushed the boundaries of destructive capability. The Zarkeli believe this. Creativity could be our greatest asset." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. It was General Tanaka who broke the silence. "We're not just talking about conventional warfare here. The Zarkeli want us to think outside the box. Way outside." In the weeks that followed, a joint human-Zarkeli military command was established. The Zarkeli provided humanity with faster-than-light technology, allowing for the rapid deployment of forces across the galaxy. In return, human military strategists began working on tactics that made even the most hardened Zarkeli commanders flinch. On the newly established Lunar Military Academy, human and Zarkeli cadets trained side by side. The aliens marveled at the human capacity for hand-to-hand combat, a concept foreign to their telepathic, non-violent culture. Meanwhile, humans struggled to comprehend the vast psychic networks the Zarkeli used for communication and coordination. Dr. Rice found herself in the heart of this cultural exchange, trying to bridge the gap between two vastly different approaches to warfare. She watched as human engineers, freed from the constraints of Earth-based physics, began to design weapons that defied imagination. One such inventor, Dr. Yuki Sato, approached Elena with a glint in her eye that was equal parts excitement and madness. "Dr. Rice, I think we've cracked it. We've found a way to weaponize dark matter." Elena's eyes widened. Is that even possible?" Yuki nodded enthusiastically. "Theoretically, yes. And with the Zarkeli's advanced understanding of cosmic forces, we can make it a reality. Imagine a weapon that could literally tear apart the fabric of space-time." As Elena listened to Yuki's explanation, a part of her marveled at human ingenuity. Another part recoiled at the potential for destruction. This was precisely the kind of thinking the Zarkeli had hoped for, But was humanity ready to wield such power? Meanwhile, on the other side of the lunar base, General Tanaka was engaged in a heated discussion with Zorlak, the Zarkali military liaison. "Your species' approach to warfare is disturbing," Zorlak communicated, its crystalline structure pulsating with unease. Tanaka's face remained impassive. "War is disturbing, Zorlak. But if we're going to beat these void harbingers, we need to be willing to do the disturbing. But some of these tactics, they violate every principle of galactic warfare. The use of biological weapons, manipulating gravity wells to crush entire fleets, turning stars into weapons. It's unthinkable." Tanaka's eyes hardened. "That's exactly why it'll work. The Void Harbingers won't be expecting it. Sometimes, to defeat a monster, you have to become one." As the alliance between humans and Zarkali grew stronger, so did the unease among some members of the Galactic Council. Reports of human military preparations sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Some saw hope in humanity's ruthless determination. Others saw the potential birth of a force just as terrifying as the Void Harbingers themselves. On Earth, the war effort transformed society. Every aspect of human civilization was geared towards the coming conflict. Children who once dreamed of being doctors or teachers now aspired to be void fighters and xenotech engineers. The entire planet became a fortress, bristling with defenses that melded human innovation with Zarkali technology. As the first human warships took to the stars, carrying weapons that could unmake worlds, Alina Reyes stood in the lunar observation deck, watching them depart. Zalfar floated beside her, its tentacles waving gently in the artificial gravity. "Are we doing the right thing, Zalfar?" Alina asked, her voice barely a whisper. The alien was silent for a long moment. "The concept of right is a luxury we can ill afford in the face of extinction, Alina. But I believe we are doing the necessary thing." Alina nodded, her eyes fixed on the departing fleet. Humanity had always looked to the stars with hope and wonder. Now, they carried with them the potential for salvation and destruction on an unimaginable scale. As the last ship winked out of sight, jumping to faster than light speed, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was holding its breath. The die was cast. Humanity was going to war, and the universe would never be the same. Little did they know, the true test of humanity's resolve and its capacity for horror was yet to come. The Void Harbingers were approaching, and with them, a conflict that would push humanity to its very limits and beyond. The first strike. The vastness of space offered no comfort as the combined human Zarkali fleet approached the Andromeda's edge, the last line of defense before the Void Harbingers advance into the Milky Way. Tension crackled through the neural networks of the Zarkali ships and the comm channels of the human vessels. This was it, the moment that would define the future of not just two species, but the entire galaxy. Aboard the UES Prometheus, the flagship of the human armada, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the battlefield. Beside her, the Zarkali commander Zexlar's crystalline form shimmered with nervous energy. "Status report," Chen barked, her voice steady despite the weight of trillions of lives resting on her shoulders. Her XO, Commander Rodriguez, responded quickly. "All ships report ready, Admiral. Weapon systems are hot, and the Zarkali psychic network is fully integrated with our tactical systems." Chen nodded, then turned to Zexlar. "Any sign of the enemy?" The alien's form pulsed with dark colors. "Our long-range sensors detect a massive energy signature approaching. It's them, Admiral. The Void Harbingers are here." As if on cue, the void of space before them seemed to tear open. Ships, if they could be called that, poured through the rift. They were monstrosities of twisted metal and pulsing organic matter, defying all known laws of physics and biology. "All ships, battle stations." Chen's voice rang out across the fleet. "Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Engage at will." The battle that ensued was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human ingenuity melded with Zarkeli technology in a symphony of destruction. Beams of concentrated dark matter lanced out from human ships, tearing Void Harbinger vessels apart at the subatomic level. Zarkeli cruisers projected massive psychic shields, absorbing enemy fire and redirecting it back with terrifying accuracy. But the Void Harbingers were relentless. For every ship they lost, two more seemed to take its place. They fought with a single-minded purpose that chilled even the most hardened human veterans to the bone. In the thick of the battle, the UES Hercules, commanded by Captain Aishif Kazemi, found itself surrounded by Harbinger ships. Kazemi's voice crackled over the comm. "Admiral, we're cut off. Permission to deploy the Nova Bomb." Chen hesitated for a split second. The Nova Bomb was one of humanity's most terrifying creations, a weapon capable of inducing a localized supernova. Its use had been hotly debated, with many arguing it was too dangerous to ever be deployed. "Do it, Captain," Chen ordered, her voice grim. "May God have mercy on us all." The Hercules hull split open, revealing a payload that pulsed with barely contained energy. As Harbinger ships closed in, Kazemi gave the order. The bomb launched, and for a moment, all was silent. Then the universe exploded. A new star blazed to life in the midst of the battlefield, its birth throes obliterating everything within a vast radius. Harbinger ships vaporized instantly, and even Allied vessels at the edge of the blast zone suffered heavy damage. As the light faded, a massive hole had been torn in the Harbinger fleet, but the cost was high. The Hercules and its entire crew had been lost, along with several other ships caught in the blast. On the bridge of the Prometheus, even the stoic Admiral Chen couldn't hide her shock. "My God," she whispered, "what have we done?" Zexelar's form had turned a pale, sickly color. This is beyond anything we imagined. The destructive potential of your species." But there was no time for reflection. The Harbingers, though reeling from the unexpected attack, were regrouping. Chen steeled herself. "All ships press the advantage. Don't let their sacrifice be in vain." The battle raged on. Human Marines, encased in powered armor that made them living tanks, teleported onto Harbinger ships, engaging in vicious close-quarters combat. They fought with a ferocity that shocked even their Zarkeli allies, using weapons that bent gravity itself to crush their enemies. Dr. Elena Reyes, watching the battle unfold from a command center on Luna, felt her heart sink. The casualties were mounting on both sides, and the brutality of the conflict was beyond anything she had imagined. This wasn't the enlightened first contact she had dreamed of as a young scientist. This was a war of extinction, with humanity unleashing horrors upon horrors in the name of survival. As the first day of battle drew to a close, the combined fleet had managed to push back the initial Harbinger assault. But it was clear that this was only the beginning. The Void Harbingers would be back, in greater numbers, and with greater fury. In the aftermath, as damage reports flooded in and the body count rose, Admiral Chen addressed the fleet. Her face, broadcast on screens across thousands of ships, showed the strain of command, but her voice remained resolute. "Today, we have shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of. We have faced an enemy that has terrorized civilizations for eons, and we have bloodied their nose. But make no mistake, this is only the beginning. The path ahead will be long and brutal. We will be asked to do things that will haunt us for generations to come. But we do this not just for Earth, not just for the Zarkeli, but for every sentient being in this galaxy. We fight so that others may live in peace. Remember that in the dark days ahead." As Chen's words echoed across the fleet, reactions varied. Some felt a surge of pride and determination. Others, having witnessed the horrors of the Nova Bomb and other human weapons, felt a creeping dread. What would humanity become in its quest to save the galaxy? On Luna, Elena Reyes turned away from the screens, her mind racing. The Zarkeli had sought humanity's help for their capacity for violence, their ability to think the unthinkable. Now, faced with the reality of that violence, even they seemed shaken. As the fleet regrouped and prepared for the next inevitable clash, a question hung in the air, unspoken but felt by all. In this war against the Void Harbingers, would humanity emerge as the saviors of the galaxy, or would they become something just as terrifying as the enemy they sought to destroy? The stars seemed to dim, as if in mourning for the lives lost and the innocence shattered. The true test of humanity's resolve and its soul was yet to come. The turning point. 6 months into the war against the Void Harbingers, the galaxy was a changed place. The initial shock of humanity's brutal efficiency in combat had worn off, replaced by a grim acceptance of their methods. Across the Milky Way, species that had once looked upon humans with curiosity or disdain now regarded them with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. On Earth, the war effort had transformed society. Cities had become sprawling factories, churning out weapons and ships at an unprecedented rate. The brightest minds on the planet worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of science and morality in equal measure. Dr. Elena Reyes stood in her lab, surrounded by holographic displays of ongoing battles and research projects. Her eyes were sunken, dark circles testament to countless sleepless nights. She barely recognized herself anymore. The idealistic xenobiologist had been replaced by a hardened war scientist. Dr. Reyes, a voice called from the doorway. She turned to see General Tanaka, his face grim. "We need to talk about Project Prometheus." Elena's blood ran cold. Project Prometheus was the most classified, most morally dubious endeavor humanity had ever undertaken. "Has the Council approved it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Tanaka nodded. "They've given us the green light. God help us all." Across the galaxy, the war raged on. Human Zarkeli fleets clashed with Void Harbinger armadas in battles that reshaped star systems. Planets were sacrificed as tactical pawns, entire populations evacuated, or in some horrific cases, left as bait to draw in Harbinger forces. Admiral Sarah Chen, her face now gaunt and her eyes haunted, stood on the bridge of the UESS Prometheus. The ship, like its commander, bore the scars of countless battles. "Admiral," her XO reported, "we're picking up a massive Harbinger fleet entering the Orion sector. They're heading straight for the Zarkeli homeworld." Chen's jaw clenched. This was what they had been dreading. A direct assault on the heart of their ally civilization. "Alert the Zarkeli High Command. Tell them it's time to deploy the Lazarus Protocol." The Lazarus Protocol was a strategy born of desperation and human ingenuity. It involved sacrificing an entire star system to create a trap for the Harbinger fleet. The details were known only to a select few, but rumors spoke of weaponized black holes and tears in the fabric of space-time itself. As the human Zarkeli fleet moved to intercept the Harbingers, tension ran high. This battle could decide the fate of the war. The clash, when it came, was cataclysmic. Human ships unleashed weapons that defied comprehension, beams that accelerated time within a localized field, aging Harbinger ships to dust in seconds, swarms of nanobots that consumed enemy vessels from the inside out, and terrible biological weapons that turned the Harbinger's own biology against them. The Zarkeli, for their part, coordinated the battle through their vast psychic network, predicting enemy movements and guiding human strikes with terrifying precision. But even this was not enough. The Harbinger fleet was vast, its ships regenerating almost as quickly as they were destroyed. As the battle reached its peak, Admiral Chen gave the order, "Initiate the Lazarus Protocol." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the star at the center of the system began to pulsate. Waves of energy rippled out, washing over ships of all sides. The Harbingers, sensing the danger too late, tried to retreat, but they were caught in the grasp of something beyond their comprehension. The star collapsed in on itself, forming a black hole of impossible size. But this was no ordinary singularity. Somehow, human scientists had found a way to control its pull, to direct its hunger. The Harbinger fleet was drawn in, ships crumpling like paper as they crossed the event horizon. But the horror didn't end there. As the last Harbinger ship vanished into the maw of the black hole, it began to fluctuate. Tears and reality itself began to form around it. "My God," Chen whispered. It worked. It actually worked. The black hole had become a gateway, channeling the Harbinger fleet into another dimension entirely. In one fell swoop, humanity had removed a significant portion of the enemy's forces from the galaxy. As reports of victory flooded in, the mood across the human-Zarkali alliance was one of elation tinged with horror. They had won a significant battle, perhaps even turned the tide of the war. But at what cost? On Luna, Dr. Rice watched the aftermath unfold with a sense of numbness. The Lazarus Protocol had been her brainchild, a theoretical weapon she had proposed in a moment of desperate inspiration. Seeing it deployed, seeing the devastation it had wrought, she felt a piece of her soul wither. Zalthar, the Zarkali scientist, approached her. Its crystalline form was dim, a sign of deep distress. "Elena," it communicated, its mental voice trembling. "What you've done, it's miraculous. And terrifying." Elena couldn't meet its gaze. "We did what we had to do," she said, the words sounding hollow even to her own ears. "Yes," Zalthar agreed. "But I fear we may have traded one horror for another. The galaxy now looks at humanity and sees not just saviors, but potential conquerors." The implications hung heavy in the air. Humanity had revealed capabilities beyond anything the galactic community had imagined. They had defeated a threat that had terrorized the galaxy for eons. But in doing so, they had become something that inspired as much fear as the Harbingers themselves. As news of the victory spread, reactions across the galaxy were mixed. Many celebrated, seeing an end to the Harbinger threat at last. Others watched the footage of the battle with growing unease, wondering what it meant for the future of the galaxy. In the depths of space, as the remnants of both fleets limped home, a chilling realization began to dawn. The war against the Void Harbingers was nearing its end. But for humanity, and for the galaxy at large, a new chapter was just beginning. The question now was, what kind of story would it be? One of peace and cooperation, or one of dominance and fear? As the black hole continued to pulse ominously in the distance, a new era for the galaxy hung in the balance, with humanity standing at its center, powerful, terrifying, and utterly transformed. The aftermath. The galaxy held its breath in the wake of the Lazarus Protocol. The Void Harbingers, a threat that had loomed over countless civilizations for millennia, had been decisively defeated. But as the dust settled, a new reality began to take shape, one that was perhaps just as terrifying as the threat they had vanquished. On Earth, parades filled the streets. Humanity celebrated its victory, reveling in its newfound status as saviors of the galaxy. But in the halls of power, a different mood prevailed. Leaders grappled with the implications of their success and the terrible power they now wielded. Admiral Sarah Chen, hailed as the architect of victory, stood before the United Earth government. Her uniform was adorned with medals, but her eyes carried the weight of the lives lost under her command. "We stand at a crossroads," she began, her voice echoing through the chamber. "We have saved the galaxy, yes, but in doing so, we have revealed ourselves to be capable of unimaginable destruction. The question now is, what do we do with this power?" In the audience, Dr. Elena Rice listened intently. The past year had aged her decades, the burden of her creations etched into every line on her face. As Chen spoke of responsibility and restraint, Elena couldn't help but wonder if it was too late. Had they already crossed a line from which there was no return? Across the galaxy, reactions to humanity's ascendance were mixed. Some worlds petitioned for Earth's protection, seeing in humanity a powerful ally against future threats. Others began to arm themselves, fearing that the species that had defeated the Void Harbingers might turn their terrible weapons on the rest of the galaxy. The Zarkali, once humanity's staunchest allies, found themselves in a difficult position. They had sought out humans for their potential, but the reality of that potential had proven more than they had bargained for. HFY, now serving as the chief liaison to Earth, addressed the Galactic Council. "We owe humanity a debt we can never repay." The aliens' thoughts resonated through the chamber. They have saved us all from annihilation, but we must also acknowledge the danger they represent. Their capacity for violence, their ability to conceive of weapons that defy the laws of nature. It is a double-edged sword that could either protect or destroy us all. As the council debated, whispers of a new movement began to spread through the galaxy. Some called it human primacy, others Terran supremacy. Its adherents argued that humanity's victory over the Harbingers proved their right to lead the galaxy. Fringe groups on Earth and its colonies began to speak of a Pax Humana, a new era of peace enforced by human military might. General Tanaka, watching these developments with growing concern, called a private meeting with Admiral Chen and Dr. Rice. "We're sitting on a powder keg," he growled, his weathered face creased with worry. "Half the galaxy wants to worship us, the other half wants to nuke us back to the Stone Age. And we got idiots at home talking about a human empire. We need to get ahead of this. Fast." Chen nodded grimly. "I agree. But how? We can't just pretend the last year didn't happen. We can't uninvent the weapons we've created." Alina, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Maybe that's exactly what we need to do." Both military leaders turned to her, confusion evident on their faces. "Explain," Tanaka demanded. Alina took a deep breath. "What if we proposed a galactic non-proliferation treaty? We agree to dismantle our most devastating weapons, share some of our defensive technology, and submit to oversight from a coalition of species. We position ourselves not as conquerors, but as guardians. Powerful, yes, but restrained." The room fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. It was Chen who finally broke the silence. "It's a noble idea, Alina. But do you really think people will go for it? After everything we've been through, everything we've sacrificed?" Alina's eyes flashed with determination. "They have to. The alternative is an arms race that will make the Harbinger War look like a schoolyard scuffle. We have a chance here. A chance to shape the future of the galaxy. We can choose to rule through fear, or we can choose to lead by example." The debate raged for weeks, not just among Earth's leadership, but across the entire galaxy. Human ambassadors traveled to every corner of the Milky Way, pleading their case for cooperation over domination. It was a hard sell. Many species, still reeling from the Harbinger War, were reluctant to trust the species that had unleashed such devastation, even in the name of salvation. But slowly, painfully, a consensus began to emerge. The Galactic Concordat, as it came to be known, was signed 2 years after the defeat of the Void Harbingers. Under its terms, humanity agreed to severe restrictions on its military capabilities in exchange for a leadership role in a new galactic defense coalition. The day the Concordat was ratified, Dr. Alina Rice stood on the observation deck of the lunar base, watching the ceremonies unfold on the screens before her. Beside her stood HFY, its crystalline form glowing with cautious optimism. "Do you think it will work?" Alina asked, her voice barely above a whisper. HFY was silent for a moment before responding. "It is a start," the alien communicated. "Your species has shown great capacity for both creation and destruction. Now you have chosen a path of restraint and cooperation. It will not be easy, but it is the best hope for lasting peace." Alina nodded, her gaze drifting to the stars beyond the viewport. Humanity had looked to those stars with wonder, then with determination, and finally with a terrible resolve that had reshaped the galaxy. Now they looked to the stars with a mix of hope and trepidation, uncertain of what the future might hold. As the ceremonies concluded and the new era officially began, Alina couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them here. They had saved the galaxy, yes, but they had also shown it horrors beyond imagination. The coming years and decades would determine whether humanity would be remembered as saviors, conquerors, or something in between. The stars twinkled silently, offering no answers. But as Elena watched, she felt a glimmer of hope. They had faced the darkness, both from without and within, and emerged scared but unbroken. Whatever challenges the future held, humanity would face them not alone, but as part of a galactic community they had helped forge in the crucible of war. The horrors of humanity had saved the galaxy. Now it was time to see if the virtues of humanity could preserve it. As the Earth rotated slowly in the distance, beautiful and fragile, Elena made a silent vow. They had unleashed terrible weapons in the name of survival. Now they would work just as tirelessly in the name of peace. The galaxy would remember humanity not just for the war they had won, but for the peace they would build. The future, uncertain but full of potential, beckoned, and humanity, chastened but undefeated, stepped forward to meet it.